One of the things I love about magic is it reminds us life is filled with surprises. But that's not the whole story. Well, perhaps I should say whole. Not in the sense of something missing, but whole in the sense of being complete. And when we ignore these kinds of differences in our lives, life surprises can get us so turned around that it can put us on the spot. Now, some people see these surprises as problems to be ignored, while others as opportunities to be explored. So let's explore. This spot is made by taking a hole and placing it in front of a hole. This spot, though, is different. If you look closely, there isn't a hole there at all. Everyone yell, "Surprise!" Now, when we embrace surprise, not as a whole, but as part of a whole, opportunities can pop up everywhere. even in the most unlikely of places, helping us to grow to whole new heights. And when it comes to magic, well, that, my friends, is the whole story. Oh, I apologize. This is an educational program as well as an entertaining one. Spelling counts. Whole story. Embracing life's surprises is our theme for today. So let's dive into the whole episode. Well, hello folks, Jonas Kane here for another episode of Positivity Now, the show that focuses on all things positive. We are on the last episode of an 8-episode series that talks about the 8 steps for thinking, being, and staying positive. For those of you who are just tuning in, or as a gentle reminder, we have plan, play, and pursue. Open your mind, open your heart. Stimulate your passions. Identify your responsibilities, take consistent action, invest in worthy guides, volunteer gifts. We're on step 8, the last step for thinking, being, and staying positive. Expect surprises along the way. If you've ever studied magic, you'll know that there are 3 valuable rules that you must follow if you want to become a successful magician. The first one is you have to never reveal the secret to your audience. This is an obvious one. If you reveal the secret, everyone's going to know how it's done. It won't be a surprise anymore. Number 2 is to never perform the same magic trick twice for the same audience. Because if you perform the same magic trick twice, people are going to know what to expect. There won't be any surprises anymore. They're going to figure out the trick. Bippity boppity boo, no more magic. Now the third secret, or the third rule of magic, is just like the first 2. I call this the 3 P's of magic. It's practice, practice, practice. Because if we don't practice our magic tricks, then we're probably going to mess up. And if we mess up, the audience will figure out how the trick is done. It will ruin the surprise, and bippity boppity boo, there's no more magic. So the 3 rules of magic all work to prevent ruining the surprise. And the surprises presented in a magic act really mirror the surprises in everyday life. Surprises that we have the choice to see surprises as problems to be ignored, or as opportunities to be explored, or as another way I like to put it, as opportunities to be fascinated by, or problems to be frustrated by. Contemporary research suggests, according to science, whatever the scientists know, but the scientists say that 50% of our lives is completely out of our control. This is a huge weight off of our shoulders because there's so many other things that we need to worry about a whole half a life, we don't have to worry about it. This is our DNA. It's our biology. It's our hereditary. We can't control who our parents are. We can't control who our ancestors are. So that's just a huge weight off our shoulders. Now, the other 50%, this is encouraging, we do have influence over. Of it, 10%, it's our circumstances. It's our job, it's our friends, it's our hobbies, it's where we live. It's those things that happen to us that we do have some influence over. Now, the other 40% that we do have control over, and this is the most encouraging part, we have 100% control over this 40% of the pie. And this 40% can really be a game changer, because let's say you lose the DNA lottery. Let's say, or instead you lose the circumstantial lottery. You can still have 40% control over this one aspect, all within your control. It's your choices. We can't control everything that happens to us. We can't control the weather, the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings and actions of others. But what we can control is how we respond to these things that we can't control. Now, a problem occurs, though, when we become paralyzed by choice. Yes, we have free will over our choices, but what happens when we become paralyzed by choice? I'm sure you've probably experienced this, I know I have in the past, at a restaurant. You're trying to figure out what to eat, but the menu has at least a bazillion options. How are you going to choose what to eat? There's a chess term, and I'm going to mispronounce this, so I encourage anyone who's watching, if you speak German, please call in and let me know if I'm pronouncing this right. It's a term called Zugzwang, a German term used in chess called Zugzwang. It's a word that means a compulsion to move. It's a situation where a player is put at a disadvantage because they have to move, but they don't want to because they don't know what the best or the right move is to make. Now, I first heard about this term in a movie called Mr. Nobody. You should check it out. It's a good film. And there's a beautiful quote that talks about this being paralyzed by choice. It says, "Every path is the right path. Everything could have been anything else, and it would have had just as much meaning." This is speaking to the element of surprise, encouraging us to expect and embrace surprises along the way, come what may. Now, I no longer experienced the paralysis of choice at restaurants, because now I just go in with the intention of having a good meal and a positive experience, and I let fate take over because no matter what, I'm going to get through the day one way or another. But what happens? What happens when we do get bad meals, despite our choices? What happens when we experience negative circumstances? We can't control all of our circumstances. Maybe we have a bad job because we don't like our boss, or maybe maybe it rained on our parade, or there was a sunny day on our ski trip. How are we going to respond in these ways? Now, we can respond in one of two ways. One, we can respond by the default way of frustration and let it be an excuse to give up. Or we can respond by design, to design positive experiences with fascination. And fascination has this natural curiosity about it that desires better results, but instead of giving up, you build yourself up along the way. In other words, when you're met by a surprise, the default reaction, the frustrating reaction, says, "There's nothing I can do." But the design response, the fascinated response, says, "Let's look at options." When someone criticizes your character, you could say, "That's just the way I am," or "Thank you for bringing that to my attention." When someone wrongs you, when someone does something against you, you could say, that person makes me mad and get frustrated. Or you can stay fascinated and say, I am responsible for my own feelings. And lastly, when we are presented with a difficult task, we could say, I can't, or we could say, I'll give it my best. 50% of our lives completely out of our control. But what we can control is our choices. And I would suggest that to embrace surprises as fascinating opportunities is perhaps the best choice of all. In 1913, the author Eleanor H. Porter published a book called Pollyanna. And if you've ever read the book, you'll know that it's about an eternal optimist. In fact, this book became so popular that the term Pollyanna became synonymous with optimism and positivity, sometimes even in a negative way, because this character can really take it to the utter extreme. But there's a passage early on in the book, and this is what I want to share with you folks. The main character, Pollyanna, shares with one of her friends a game that she came up with. It's called the Glad Game. And the goal of the Glad Game is to take any situation, no matter what it could be, and always find something positive in that circumstance. So always be looking for the opportunity rather than the problem. So the goal of this is to stay fascinated rather than frustrated. And quite simply, you could take a negative situation, let's say the negative situation, but you could think of your own, but let's use an example of maybe your car breaks down. So we take a negative situation. You could say, my car broke down, I won't have it out of the auto body shop or the repair shop for a week. It's frustrating. So you take a negative situation. The second step is to now add a positive prompt to that negative statement. So we could say, my car broke down, and then you say, I'm glad my car broke down because now I'll get to ... So we added the negative or the positive prompt to the negative circumstance. The last step in the Glad Game is to find the opportunity within this situation. So in this example, it could be, my car broke down. I'm glad my car broke down because now I'll get to spend more time with my friend who has volunteered to drive me to work. Yes, it can be frustrating to not have your car, to have to spend money on repairs, to have to inconvenience your friend, or we could see it as an opportunity to deepen a relationship with those around us. It depends on what side of the coin are we going to look on. Ultimately, when we're presented by life's surprises, we have three basic choices. We could be a carrot, we could be an egg, or we could be a coffee bean. Hear me out. When a carrot finds itself in hot water, what happens? It becomes soft, it becomes mushy, it loses all of its strength. Well, now when an egg gets in hot water, it becomes strong, it becomes hardened, right? But when a coffee bean gets in hot water, it makes everything around it taste better. So the question becomes, how do you respond to the surprises in your own life? Do you respond to these surprises by letting them zap you of your strength? Do you let them get the best of you and you become hardened to life? Or do you take these situations and you design positive and sweet outcomes despite the sour situations? Using the ideas shared in today's episode, it's my hope that you're now able to take all the varying life's surprises and be empowered and encouraged to create positive situations regardless of the circumstances. Well, that's it for today's episode of Positivity Now, and that's the end of this 8-episode series on the 8 steps for thinking, being, and staying positive. It's my hope that you found something of value that you can use to apply to your own life to facilitate positive experiences. Be sure to tune in to our next episode where we're going to talk about how to stay positive even while dealing with negative people. So be sure to tune into that, but also be sure to check out our website, positivitymagic.com, where you can also enter to win our contest. I mentioned in the last episode how we have a special contest. You have a chance to win $100. All you have to do, go to positivitymagic.com/contest to enter to win. But here's the catch, you can't keep the money. If you win this contest, you're going to give that money, that prize, to someone else. So think about who you would give that money to, and think about why you would give them that prize, why you would want to recognize them. Then go to positivitymagic.com/contest to enter to win. Until next time, my name is Jonas Kane. Stay positive. We talked about plan, play, and pursue. Open your mind, open your heart, stimulate your passions, identify your responsibilities, take consistent action, invest in worthy. I wrote this book and I forgot what it is. Volunteer your gifts. Let's do it again. Why? There isn't a hole there at all. Everyone yell, surprise! That was not supposed to happen.